The creek was quiet, except for the sound of rushing water when Caleb Carter felt his boot sink deeper than the mud beneath it, and that was when he saw the sack drifting toward him, half submerged, heavy in a way that made his chest tighten before his mind could catch up, because sacks weren't supposed to move, and they certainly weren't supposed to tremble. He waded forward, water slapping against his waist, grabbed the burlap just as it snagged on a rock, and that was when he heard it, a sound so small it almost vanished beneath the current, a broken, fragile breath that didn't belong to the river. His hands shook as he pulled the sack close, fingers numb as he loosened the soaked rope, and when the opening fell apart, a tiny muddy hand slipped free and curled around his thumb like it was the only thing keeping the world from ending. Caleb forgot the cold, forgot the years he'd spent alone on that land after burying his wife and the child she never lived long enough to hold, forgot every prayer he'd stopped believing in, because in that moment the past didn't matter, only the weight of this life that someone had decided was disposable. He lifted the baby from the sack, pressed her to his chest, felt a weak heartbeat flutter against his own, and when her lips moved, barely forming sound, he heard it, "Mama," a word that cut through him sharper than any blade, because he knew no mother could have let this happen unless the world had already broken her first. He carried the child out of the creek, wrapping her in his coat, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep, while the sun dipped low and painted the water gold, as if the land itself was watching to see what kind of man he would be. The town would later whisper about where the baby came from, about sins and shame and secrets left behind in the dark, but none of that mattered to Caleb as he rocked her by the fire that night, feeding her with trembling hands, listening to her breathing finally settle into something steady. Days turned into weeks, and the ranch that had once echoed with silence learned the sound of life again, soft cries at dawn, tiny fingers gripping his beard, laughter that arrived like a miracle he hadn't earned. People said fate brought the sack to the creek that evening, but Caleb knew better. It wasn't fate, it was choice, the same choice made by the ones who abandoned her, and the one he made when he stepped into the water instead of turning away. Years later, when the girl would ask where she came from, he would tell her the truth, not about cruelty, but about the moment a river carried